my time zone. Well, welcome to Brunches and Dragons. If this is the first time that you are watching this, what we are going to do today is Tanya and I are going to tell a very short story together. It's going to be loosely based on Dungeons and Dragons. If we have to roll any dice, we'll be using Dungeons and Dragons 5e. This started out as a sort of an experiment because my players really liked the NPCs I would come up with on the spot and no preparation, and I am terrified of improvising. So I thought, okay, if those are the ones they like the best, I should practice that a little more. It was also loosely based off of something that Bard and Barbarian does. I highly recommend you check out their Saturday morning cartoons. Worth it. Love them. It's morphed over time and become what this is now, where it's sort of a storytelling experiment. I try to have different people on every time. Tanya and I didn't quite finish up our story last time, so we're gonna do that now. You can always go ahead and watch the VOD on YouTube if you want to pick up the first half, but we'll try and give as much details as we can to remind ourselves and y'all about what happened last time. So this is Tanya. Tanya's a friend of mine that I met at PAX. Tanya does all kinds of things that I think are very important, and I think everybody should follow Tanya online. I'll go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Hello. I'm glad we get to come back and finish the story.
Me too.
Or at least tell more of it, because this is just fun shenanigans.
Yes.
But I'm Tanya, Cypher Tier everywhere online. I do a lot, and I stream on Twitch. I do a lot of RPG development and diversity consulting. What else do I do? I'm a Take This ambassador, so mental health is very important to me. And and in full disclosure, if I am a little bit out of it, a little bit groggy, or I struggle today, it has been struggle bus for me for the last few days. Mental health is not great in what is now almost month 10 of this pandemic lockdown that we've been in.
Yeah.
Be safe and do as much as we can. So if I'm not like right on top of things, that'd be why. I've also got snacks, because feeding your brain is important too.
It is. Yeah.
In addition to so you may catch me like nibbling a little bit. And then Into the Motherlands. I created that. I'm on it, and knock on wood, we get a second season. Still kind of in limbo, but
yeah, I want that to have a second season so badly.
Yeah, we all do. So
yeah.
If anyone watched it and enjoyed it, please make sure to tell Twitch that you enjoyed it and you'd love to see more. And you can go over to my YouTube, which is also /CypherTier, and see all 12 episodes and a bonus Q&A with everyone when we wrapped episode 12. So.
Oh yeah, I did catch part of that Q&A. That was really interesting. I think you guys went over some really good content there. That's worth watching just on its own. I think I got a lot of context from it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also riding the struggle bus. So I have an autoimmune disorder that affects my joints really badly, so a lot of chronic pain. And it also means my muscles will spasm at weird times. So I almost dropped my computer yesterday, and I tried to catch it, and my entire left side spasmed, and I'm suffering for it today. That always causes a lot of brain fog. And then there's also something else wrong with me that no one's figured out. So basically, I wake up in the morning and I can't breathe through any of the places you're supposed to be able to breathe from. So this morning was tough. I had a very, very large mug of this tea that I found that is lemon tea. It's called Team Instinct by, I think that one's from Dryad Tea. But it's you know how you're supposed to drink tea with like lemon juice in it when you've got a cold and stuff? This is it's like black tea with lemons in it. It's so good. I highly recommend it for anybody that has a cold. That, a little bit of whiskey and a lot of honey, perfect. I didn't put whiskey in it this morning, but it's a very good drink. It's a Sunday.
I mean, we're not here all day.
No. Yeah, no. So yeah, I am also riding the struggle bus. Tanya and I were texting this morning about getting online and doing this, and we were both doing kind of this, like whoosh, like whoosh, and I was like, I missed this part, and just I was like, I'm so sorry. And so we're gonna tell a story. It's gonna be fun, but it might not go the way that we all think it's gonna go. And that's fine. You're allowed to play games when you don't feel well. You're allowed to not play games when you don't feel well. I skipped my stream yesterday because I wanted to... I'm autistic, and sometimes I'm nonverbal, and I had spent Friday talking to people for 13 plus hours, and so on Saturday I took a break. You're allowed to do that as well, but you're also allowed to play a game if your brain doesn't feel exactly right. Yeah, and you should look for people that will help support you with that. I highly encourage it. There's some really good communities out there. I think the Take This ambassadors are really strong people to follow because they'll set the tone in a lot of ways that I think is important. And anyway, about that story we were going to tell. Although Mermaid Jeans did make a comment that whiskey and honey is good. So hi Mermaid Jeans.
Yes, whiskey and honey is very good. It's funny because I actually have some whiskey on my desk. Not because I sit and drink at my desk, just straight whiskey, but I lost the cap and it was easier just to leave it on my desk and like put something over the top of it
I support this.
and risk it like falling off
I
into
super
something.
yeah, no. I super support this. Yeah, I used to have honey whiskey on my desk at work, a little tiny jar that I would pour into my tea because it had honey and that little bite of whiskey in it. My tea always had lemon in it, so if I got to work and I was like, "Holy crap, this cold is the worst," I'd put a little bit of that in. Mermaid Jean says, "This is important to hear. I dropped out of my D&D game mainly because of mental health. I am so sorry to hear that, Mermaid Jeans. I try really hard to make sure that my D&D groups are really supportive of that. I hope you can find a new one soon that helps you with that. That sucks. Well, I hope you enjoy this today because it's D&D adjacent, so that should give you a little bit. Okay, let's see here. We've got, now it's pronounced Victoire Hawke, yes?
Yes.
You are a Ravenite Dragonborn monk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. You really like to help people right wrongs. You want to go ahead and describe Victoire again for us? I do have notes, but I'd like to hear you how you'd put it.
Oh God. So he's tall. I think we said close to 7 feet. I could be wrong. Like silver gray steel scales. Traditional monk attire. Trying to remember what color I said his eyes were. I want to say they were like a steel gray.
I have written down bright golden, but I am totally. We can do this thing where the eyes change like to a steel when like when I didn't write down the pronouns for Victor.
He him.
Right, when he gets angry, like it can turn steel gray, or like when he's particularly in a good mood, it can be a steel, whatever.
Yes. Okay. So I'm gonna say golden, and then if he's like super angry, they get like dark steel, almost like they almost match his scales, like a steel gray. Kind of like Dorian in Dragon Age.
Yeah. Okay, I like that.
Same steel gray blue.
My husband can tell how much pain I'm in by, or at least when I'm in a severe amount of pain, by the color my eyes change, and he can also tell when I'm angry.
Oh dear.
I don't know what color his eyes might change because he also has blue eyes because I don't make eye contact with people. I know he has blue eyes because I've checked, but that's it. Okay.
Yeah, I have dark brown eyes, so there's no changing here. I just give that stare that is my emote, and I'm like,
oh yeah, that's a good expression. I have copied that expression. I've used it in meetings at work, and it has produced the results I've wanted. Really enjoy that expression. Okay, you've got a pocket sundial from your mentor. Oh yeah, it was a joke because you were late a lot to training. I think that's what I got written down here.
I was late a lot, and I was also impatient.
Right, perfect.
Yes, I was late, and I was often impatient.
You've got a soft spot for teenage boys because they're awkward. You've been in that place, the emotional strain of spite specifically, and you don't want others to go through that. So what we did is there was, you were traveling. You saw a kid steal something from a vendor. I think it was necklaces, like bright sort of bauble kind of necklaces. Nothing super expensive, but yes, that emote mermaid. Thank you. And you caught him, and you started. You were like, "What's going on?" And it was a dragonborn, sort of a teen, and then maybe a slightly younger human. And I believe the Dragonborn teen's name was Alvaro, and his compatriot's name was Jeff. I'm pretty sure it's what we had. That's what I wrote down. And so you start talking to them, and they finally spill that they're orphans. Their orphanage doesn't get a lot of funding anymore because the abbey or temple nearby that used to support them, I forget why they went away. Better offer maybe, or died out or something like that. Anyway, the point.
It was some change.
Yeah, the point is they. Oh, maybe it's on this side. Nope, didn't write it down. Good. The point is that it's the kiddos at the orphanage are not going to have the best holiday ever. I think it was like a harvest holiday or something like that.
Yeah.
They tell you about Lord Lochwin, who has set up a very unfair competition. And I think the result of the competition is if they win, then he'll fund the orphanage or something like that, I think is what we said.
Yes, but it was very much stacked in his favor because he's got his own set of orphans that have basically been training for this since they went to live with him. And they're older, they're stronger. So even if Alvaro and Jeff were to enter, they would get beaten very easily, and it wouldn't be fair for me as a monk-trained adult dragonborn to enter the competition.
Right.
So we're in this weird impasse of what do we do?
Right. So you actually went back to the vendor and paid for the necklaces. I've got a note here that says, you know what it's like to feel alone, don't want others to feel that way. And that kind of pain can fester. If he lets it fester, he'll grow into a terrible adult. I think the kid asked you, did someone not want you? And you actually responded, yep, this is kind of what set me on my path. You go to a toy store, which I think is probably one of my favorite scenes I've ever done. You pick up a bunch of toys for the kids, and you negotiate with her for her son's older equipment. And I'm going to go ahead and retcon and say it's her adopted son, because we were talking to a gnome, and I think a gnome's son, like biological son's equipment, would not fit Alvaro, so we're going to say adopted son.
Yeah, that wouldn't work out too well.
Oh, I found it. There was a rumor that Lord Lochwin burned the sisters out of their temple, so there was a fire, and they didn't have enough funding to rebuild, so they moved to another temple. That's what it was. You met Angela and Brittany. They were sisters. They're the two sisters that take care of the orphans. They send the kids to go do chores, and the adults are talking. You talk to them about Alvaro. You offer to stay and help Alvaro, check out the temple. Oh, my handwriting is dreadful. Angela warns him to...
Be careful, I think.
Yes, be careful. Thank you. And the kids have reading lessons and training lessons, and that's all I captured. So I think what happened at the very end was that you were planning on going outside and doing a physical training lesson with whoever was out in the yard, teens out in the yard.
And I think I told Alvaro to go put on the gear I gave him.
Right. So I think the big things that are happening in this world at this time are that competition, the temple. Lord Lochwin is planning on doing something with it now. The orphanage's funding. Alvaro's an angry teen. Yeah, I think there's a couple of different directions you could go in. I think you said you wanted to investigate the temple. I think that's why I wrote down that Angela said be careful. Can't quite remember that.
I think we were. I don't know if we said we'll leave it as like training montage.
I think
actually kind of RP that out. But if it's like the next day or even a couple days later, Victoire is definitely going to be on his way to check out the temple and see, kind of what's happening, if there's any signs of this fire being intentional.
Yeah, okay. I'm perfectly happy leaving it at a training montage, because we could probably talk about that for an hour. If that is what you want to talk about. I have been reading this series of books lately that a friend recommended, and I have a new new library of language I can use to describe combat. So can totally go through a training montage if you want. It will not be accurate. Internet, do not try to hold me to any accuracy. Don't do it. I've only learned a little, but yeah.
I mean, but if you are bursting at the seams to use some of this new language, I would not
No.
object to a description of your no.
No,
Don't want to do it. Okay.
I'm so bad at combat. It's not even funny. I'm reading books right now to get better at combat because in the Treasure Tuesday campaign I'm running, they leveled up, and I've got our barbarian that has like 4 moves in one turn, and an Asimar that has also got like multiple attacks in one turn now. So I'm doomed. I'm reading books about it and trying to get better at describing it and that kind of thing. Because combat does happen in D&D sometimes, you know? If you've got a group that has swords, it happens.
Yeah, or fireballs.
Or
but
fireballs,
we don't have to describe the montage. We can just be like, the montage, hand wave.
Well, I think what's important about the montage is you go out, you look Alvaro over. He's actually got the gear on fairly correctly. You probably have to tweak it a little. He's got a good natural stance, right? Still needs some tweaking. And you set him to some exercises that he's like, this is boring. And you're like, yep. You know, and you have that whole conversation with that an adult will have with a teen when they first start doing combat exercises where it's like, it is boring. We're trying to train your muscles into having an automatic response to this kind of situation. It'll get more interesting in a while. And do you think Victoire would sprinkle in the interesting stuff or be like a super hard ass about like, no, you're going to do the boring stuff for 5 years and then we'll get interesting? Which do you think would...
No, I think he would sprinkle in some interesting stuff, especially if he sees like, if he can sense that kind of resentment of, oh man, I thought this would be fun. Because it's clear that Alvaro probably has a very skewed idea of what it means to train for combat. He probably thinks it's like, I'm going to get chainmail and this beautiful sword and I'm just going to go out and fight. And it's
I will be a hero.
You have to learn how to do. Right.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you have to learn how to wear the chainmail, how to put it on.
Yeah.
So he would put in interesting things and occasionally like, you know, okay, you've been practicing for a couple hours. Let's see what you've learned. And then, you know, he probably would very easily beat Alvaro. But he would do it in a way where Alvaro's encouraged to keep training versus, oh, I just got beat up. I'll never be this good. I'm going to give up. That's true.
Sorry about that. I have one button that will either mute my microphone to stream or mute my microphone to Discord, and it does not do both, and I picked stream. I apologize.
It is okay. I like scooted over to turn on the little heater that's behind me because it's like
cold
25 degrees here.
You know
and
what?
It's snowing, so.
I have discovered something that you might enjoy. It's called the Comfy. It's basically a blanket that they made into a hoodie.
Ooh.
It's so good. It has Sherpa inside and then like a silky fleece on the outside. And the only reason I'm not wearing it right this instant on stream in front of God and everybody is because the instant I put it on, I start taking a nap. Nap all day long. Yeah.
That sounds legit though.
Oh, it is great. Now it is one size fits all, so it's gigantic on me and it like reaches past my knees and stuff, but I like it a lot. I think it's great. Mermaid saying hi to the kitty. This is Dr. Aegon. He's my familiar.
Aw, kitty.
So I put up a pet cam. He's a little grumpy right now. I think he might have something going on with his ears. So one of the reasons I have the pet cam up is to keep an eye on him because my last cat lived for 20 years and I got a little paranoid the last couple years of his life because older cats have problems, and so I hover over the kittens a little bit. They don't like it. They'll go away when I hover too much, but yeah. So I'm helicopter bobbing over the kitten. That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, kitty's like, I'm paying you no attention. I'm grooming.
He's literally got his back to me. Like I tried to pet him and he turned around and he was like, no.
Aw, kitties.
They set their own boundaries. Anyway. Okay, so you sprinkle in the interesting stuff. You want to keep Alvaro interested. He had too much of a romantic idea of what combat would be. So you're making sure that you introduce him to the idea of combat without making him want to give up. Now, he is a
Yeah.
teenager, so he'll probably want to give up at some point. And I think that would be a good moment for Victoire to probably have one of his, I think at this point, signature heart-to-hearts with Alvaro, because when I was looking back over my notes, I realized you had a couple of those. And I think
Yeah.
you're really connecting quite well with Alvaro. I think that's working. So let's say you've been there.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna try to figure out a good way to segue, but you started, so never mind.
So I am very used to this. My groups will just sort of be like, what happens next? And I'll be like, okay, segue. Um, so let's say you've been doing this for about a week. That is my weird version of a montage. You've been and Alvaro, I think in that first week, what's become very clear to you is this kid's a natural. This kid could actually do this for a living if he wanted to. And it looks like he's going to fall into a lot of the moves that you use quite well. You probably try to teach him some standard stuff, but there's probably a couple of tricks you've picked up that he picks up very easily. Part of it's youth, part of it's he's in shape because he's been working for a living for a couple of years now, and he gets fed decently well, right? Like all of that together, decent talent there. And Alvaro's made enough progress that he feels good about himself. He's feeling a lot of confidence. The other kids are probably joining in on because a lot of combat's really just stretching and punching trees and stuff. So they can all do that without equipment. And they're getting a kick out of it. Girls and boys too. Victoire would teach girls and boys, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, would Victoire know any of the stuff that like so girls, sometimes girls are smaller, sometimes boys are smaller. Would Victoire know some of the moves that you teach to people that are slighter build to get like the upper hand? Sometimes people call it cheating. I don't.
No, he would teach people about like leg sweeps and
Yeah.
realizing like using himself as an example, especially if he notices like anyone who's smaller kind of hovering and not wanting to come up.
Mm-hmm.
He would encourage them to like kind of like take aim at him and remind them that someone who's taller is going to have a lower center of gravity, so you can actually get swept a lot easier.
Yeah.
And like solar plexus, like kidney shots. It's a little dirty, but if you wind up in combat,
Combat is not really about rules. Yeah.
yeah, it's like if it's you or them, and they you can get in a good kidney shot and get away. Do what you got to do, but also someone who's smaller, they're gonna have to reach further, and if they like reach for you or grab, you can just get a good gut shot and then get out of the way.
Yep. Yeah, so you spend your first week doing this kind of thing. The sisters keep an eye on stuff the first day or two, but they quickly recognize you're good with the kids. You're not gonna whap anybody upside the head or anything for no reason, and they kind of leave you to it. You settle into a rhythm where you join them for meals. The sisters keep the place clean and neat, and they teach the kids reading and writing. There is somebody that comes in and does some of the heavier cleaning. Volunteers their time. You notice it's like 2 or 3 women that'll bring in some supplies and they'll do all the dishes or something like that, sort of in the middle of the day. So you're starting to really settle into the feel of the orphanage. It's a nice place. The sisters keep it clean. They teach everybody to be kind. Don't steal stuff. Your typical stuff. So I think you're really getting to know the orphanage. You're also hearing more rumors. This Lord Lochwin guy doesn't seem like he's being a good lord. To your mind, would this be true? To your mind, a lord protects the lands that he is governing and tries to be as fair and unbiased as possible, and it's not about him gaining all the wealth. It's about the lands he's in charge of, like really everybody prospering. Like keeping his eye on all that stuff. Does that quite match what you want to fill in anything there?
Yeah, from the way that he was raised, Victoire would look at the lord of the land as kind of the steward of not just the land and the buildings, but the people.
Yeah.
And that if anyone's going hungry, they don't have anywhere to live, then he's failing in his duty.
Okay. Yeah. So he's failing. He is spending. He's spending more money than He's spending money like water. He is not paying attention to the least of his humans. He's not making sure the kids get education. He is constantly doing tourneys and competitions, and he gambles a lot. He's not a very good lord at all. And the temple, the dedicates to the temple, from what you understand, were very sweet older women. They were I forget which temple it was, but let's say it was one of the ones where they liked to help the poor, and they would teach a lot, teach basic, letters and numbers to smaller children, or any children really. Let's say they were one of those, and they are sorely missed by this community. It was really the only school in the area of any kind, and you noticed a high rate of literacy amongst this town, and that's why that temple was why. So I think that's what you'd pick up in about a week. You said you would want to head over to the temple.
Yeah, I definitely want to go investigate the temple, see if there's still so if I go in and there's signs of fire damage, or if I go there and there are people there, just kind of go, well, I thought the temple was abandoned. Why are there people here?
Yeah, okay. So, would you gear up? Are you going to try to be sneaky, or are you going to try to make sure that if anybody tries to stab you in the back, you've got armor there?
Oh no, I'd be kitted out in my leather armor. I would not go unprepared.
All right, so you're kitted out. You're about to head out the front door, and I think Brittany is in teaching the kids their letters, and Angela is at the door when you're about to head out. And she looks you up and down, and she's like, where you headed?
I'm just gonna take a little walk down to the temple.
Her eyebrows go up, and she seems to be thinking, and she says, well, all I can say is be careful. Too many rumors going around for me to be comfortable with you going by yourself. However, she sort of gestures at all of you and says, you could probably take care of yourself. And she says, do you need anything? Do you want Alvaro to go with you?
Before I answer in character, story-wise, would that be more interesting if he gets to go with me?
Well, let's think about that. Classic debate, right? Like, do you want to build an NPC up to that state? Sometimes I've seen this done. I've seen exercises like this done, and then Alvaro becomes a playable character that somebody can pick up. I'm not sure. I think realistically, after a week of training and you expecting to be able to defend yourself, you probably wouldn't bring him along, because you'd spend more time keeping him out of trouble than really defending yourself, probably.
Yeah. And it could also be a good setup for Alvaro feeling left behind once I come back.
Yeah, that could be an interesting story piece too, because you'd be able to address that. Yeah.
Yeah, and if he's feeling like, well, I've been training for a week, and
yeah,
you're like, yeah, a week. That's all the training you have right now.
Hi.
Okay, then
I've been doing this for X amount of decades.
Right. It's like, I'm just like, he's only got about a week or so under his belt. I think he should stay.
Yeah. Okay, so let's yeah. And she says, if you're expecting things to go that way, I appreciate you letting him stay here. Should I if you don't return by dinner, should I try to send somebody after you?
I'd say by tomorrow morning at the latest.
She nods.
It's early. If I'm not back by dinner, start to worry, but send someone if I'm not back for breakfast.
She says, okay, I'll tell Brittany, but I won't tell the children. We'll just say you're off on an errand or something. So you've only been here a week, and this woman is already worrying about your well-being. You recognize that that spirit that some people have where they just sort of adopt everything around them.
Yeah.
Do you think Victoire would find that annoying or kind of sweet?
He probably would find it kind of sweet, especially if he spent this much time around them and the kids. He's the softie that doesn't want to show he's a softie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, like he wouldn't his expression wouldn't change while he's talking to her,
Yeah.
but he would have that kind of like, oh, they're so nice.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that would even bolster his resolve to figure out what's going on and make the Lord pay for what he's not doing for his people.
Right. Okay. So you head over to the temple. The temple is about an hour's walk outside of town. It is a big stone, just pile, basically. It looks like something somebody built to be a temple, like big and dumb and cold, probably. But it's not so far outside of town that the kids would be unreasonably expected to go there for school. And it's not up a hill both ways. So you when you get there, it seems to be deserted. It's the kind of place where there's a courtyard out front. This is the kind of place where in good weather they would have hung like lanterns, and there were free benches and stuff so people could come read, and it was a gathering place. Around back there's would it make sense for Victoire to like scout the whole area, or the building at least? So you notice these big arching windows that seem to be the way it would have been built was the stone outside, and then the windows would have been placed into wood and then sort of hammered into place. That you do see evidence of a broken glass and scorched out wooden supports for those windows. There's actually broken glass in the dirt outside, and like charred pieces of wood out those windows. You can tell that it used to be probably quite beautiful stained glass. You get around the back side, and this is where like deliveries would have been made. It's a sort of a dirt yard, and like a bigger door that probably leads up into the kitchen, and then like a couple of storage sheds. Like there was a chicken coop. They probably kept goats in that pen, and there's like a storage shed with like a stable in the side that'd hold a horse, kind of thing. Do you think Victoire would make their approach through the front door or the back door?
Probably back door, being as quiet as he possibly can, just in case. Based on all the rumors he's heard.
Yeah. So you head into the back. That door is a big wooden door. It is also scorched, but it's such a thick door that and it's probably made out of something like ironwood that it didn't get very far. But what you notice about that door is the lock has been sort of... Nope, you can't drill stuff out in this world. I don't know, pried out, so the door has the basic latch, but anything that would lock has been sort of like twisted out of place. So you're able to activate the latch, and the door doesn't swing open. This is the kind of door you're gonna have to tug on. It's so old that you can see the marks in the stone where the wood has sort of started to wear away, and you can see where the door has started to lean in, and so the bottom of the door isn't square anymore. The corners have been rubbed away.
Okay.
So as you pull it open, there's that peculiar noise wood makes when it's being dragged across stone. It's sort of a squeaking noise.
Yeah.
It is
and
unavoidable.
like, oh.
Yep. And it echoes.
Yeah. So much.
Yep. You end up in a kitchen. It's a big kitchen. You can see evidence of fire here, but it doesn't seem to have gotten very far. It's a big stone kitchen. You can see where the sinks were. You can see where they would have prepared stuff. There's a big table down the center of the room where they probably did a lot of prep, and frankly, they probably ate at this table. It seems to be made of the same wood as the door, so you can see scorch marks where the fire got really hot, but it didn't. Maybe it took off a little bit of the edge of the table, but that was about it. This is where you start to notice that all of the fire seems to be on the left side of the building. When you walked around the right side, the windows were broken, but you didn't see a lot of scorched wood or anything. And that's really clear here in the kitchen too, as it seems like the fire came in through one of the two doors that you see, besides the one that you just came in. So do you think you'd go through the door that doesn't have scorch marks or the one that does?
I would go through the door with scorch marks because I think like Victoire would be focused on trying to either figure out the path of the fire, and it'd be curious to him that only the left side seemed to be burned. So either kind of trying to see where the fire started, or figure out what the path of the fire was once it was lit.
Well, the one thing you notice, go ahead and roll an investigation check for me.
Okay, I get to roll.
I'm using heartbeat dice today. I backed their Kickstarter, and these just showed up. Is that gonna be not fuzzy? Shiny. It's very shiny. Black enamel and like a rainbow metal. And the 20 is just all hearts. I really like this set.
I have a 14.
Great. So this is not hard. It's fairly easy to read a fire if it's as hot as this one was, and the scorch marks here in the kitchen are of the fire going sort of out the back door. Not so it doesn't seem to have started in the kitchen.
Okay.
So kitchen's at the back of the building, right? If you head out through the door with the scorch marks, you're gonna head into I guess it's a relatively large room. It's probably about the size of frankly, probably about the size of the orphanage's bottom floor. It's a very large room. What you see in here are ruins, right? This room was swept with fire. You see little desks, like this is probably where they set up their school. That kind of ash that comes from paper that's been burned and then wetted down, sort of piled in the corners, and it looks like all the ruined furniture was piled up in the corner. The windows in here have been smashed and all of the wood's been burned out. It was quite hot in this room. There's chalkboards on a couple of the walls, but they're all cracked, so it got really hot in here.
Okay, so it's like when the fire swept through, it just warped everything. Anything that it wasn't just burned up.
Yeah, and in fact, the door out of this room, not the door you entered in, but the other door, that one has the door still attached to it, but that wood is warped. It's half, it's half burned away, and then you can see where the, what's the thing you attach a door to the wall with? Hinge. Hinges are all melted. Like, you're not going to move this at all.
Oh.
Thank you. Yeah, and the wooden frame is like half burned out as well. Are you gonna head out that door or backtrack?
Actually, I want to kind of check the chalkboards because, and I think I missed it. You said that I could tell that the fire started in the kitchen or did not start in the kitchen.
It did not start in the kitchen.
Okay.
It definitely came through here. You're not sure if it started in here. I think you're probably going to need to get a look at the whole... I think you'd know. You'd probably have to get a look at the whole place to see where it started.
Okay. In that case, it's just making a mental note to, like, maybe, unless I find a room that's even more burned, make a mental note to kind of look here and investigate maybe a little closer. Because if the heat was enough to melt hinges, but it didn't start in here... Now I'm wondering, like, was it augmented somehow? Like, was it a natural fire? Was it a magical fire? Was there oil or something involved?
Yeah.
There's also, like, IRL forensic brain kicking in, which makes no sense.
Kelly did that too. It was funny.
But yeah, let's keep going.
Okay. So you head out that door. What you realize is... The kitchen was narrow and wide, so it was the width of the whole building. The room that you were just in, you realized took up about another, like, filled in that quarter. What you walk out into is the very front half of the building, all open, huge ceilings, huge windows, big double doors in the front, with like a smaller human-sized door in it. Though that wood has been scorched fairly badly. It's more obvious at the bottom of the door going up, and like the small human door, the hinges on that have been melted out. All of the windows in here have been burned out, and all the frames are burned out. This looks like it's about the same fire-ish as the schoolroom. So you've got the main door, the door you just came in, and then there's another door on the right side of the hall. There's a sort of a platform set up. If you walk in the front door, against that back wall would be these 2 stone steps up to an altar. The altar was made out of stone, and it looks like the stone cracked sort of in a diagonal down the middle. And so it's that can sometimes happen with some kinds of stone if it gets too hot. I think you would know that.
Yeah, it's like marble, some other stones where if there's too much heat, it'll just start to crack.
Marble is weirdly delicate. I saw a video of somebody dropping a countertop and trying to drop it to place, and it just shattered as they were setting it down.
Oh my god. I knew marble was a little on the soft side, but I didn't realize it was that delicate.
It's very clear that they were setting it down very incorrectly, but it was an entertaining video. For me, the person that didn't spend
like,
God knows what on that piece of marble.
Oh yeah, that would have been super expensive.
Yeah, and we just bought our first house, so we've been looking at like what it would take to do this or that, and dang, is house improvement expensive. Okay, so you know that. If you step out into the middle of the hall. Oh, also there's piled up furniture here too, and you realize that the pews have burned almost to nothing. It's all charred wood, and it's been piled on. We'll say if you're looking at the door on the left side of the hall, which is the same side of the hall with the door into the schoolroom that you just came out of.
Okay. Because you said there was like the human-sized door, but those hinges are melted.
Mm-hmm.
If someone had come into that door, there's no way to tell. The door's just...
It's hanging open. So, yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of like the hinges are melted, but it's just kind of askew.
The way I'm thinking about it is in a fire, if a door gets opened, the fire feeds through that, right? Because of the... And so at any doorway that it goes through, it's going to scorch more. So if you look at these doors on the outside, they don't look burned, but on the inside, the bottoms are super burned, and around that hole, that human-sized hole, it's like the fire used it like a chimney.
Okay, so it's possible that fire was on the outside, and when that door got opened, it was just like, welcome in, fire. Please go this way.
Actually, it looks more like the fire burst out of that door. Like maybe it started on the inside and somebody tried to run through, and they went through the door and the fire just followed them out. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking the opposite. Like if the fire was started outside, and then whoever started the fire opened the door to make sure that it kind of like
it got in. Yeah. No, that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like it seems like a fire that would have started inside.
Okay. You said there was a door to the side as well?
Yep, there's another door. If you're looking at the huge door, there's a door to the right. It's in the same spot on the wall that the door you came in through the schoolroom was. You assume that whatever is in between the Great Hall and the kitchen is that's the right side of the building you haven't explored yet.
Okay. Can I do an investigation where the fire seems to have burned the worst?
Yeah,
see
go
if
ahead.
I notice anything or can anything.
Yeah.
All right, dice, don't fail me. Ooh, that is better. That is an 18.
Great. You can tell. Let's see here. You're looking for where the fire burned the hottest?
Yeah, so if it was hot enough to like melt these hinges, crack the marble, I'm wondering maybe was it thrown through a window? Like kind of like is there any sense of this was the flashpoint, like in this area, and then it just kind of burned like back toward where I came in?
I think with an 18, what you'd be able to tell, I think you'd be able to tell it started in here. The wood the pews are made out of is it's very easy to light that stuff up. And with the way the pews are arranged, like the benches and stuff would have been arranged, it would have been really easy for the fire to start and then grow really quickly. You imagine that somebody did try to run out the front door, and that's why the scorch marks go in that direction. Somebody probably tried to run back into um, the the classroom and then on into the kitchen, and that's where the fire seems to have moved. And again, those little desks and all that paper, would have made the fire rage in there. There's not a lot in the kitchen that would have caught on fire. It doesn't look like they were in the middle of any food prep or anything. It looks like probably no one was in there. You're not finding any bones or anything like that, so it looks like this fire was started when probably no one was awake or in the building. Because I think burned bodies leave sort of a residue, and you're not finding any of that.
Huh.
I don't know if that's true, Internet. Don't hold it against me. It makes sense.
That's more of a like more of a thinking out loud, because even when, and unfortunately I know this too well, unfortunately when someone's cremated, there's still something left.
Yeah.
So it's not like, because if there's just like no anything, whoever started this fire wasn't caught in it. There were no people here when this happened.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to wonder, is it an accident?
None of the temple dedicates were killed at all. Like, you didn't hear anything about that.
Right, like there was no injury, there was no loss.
Yeah, other than the building itself, yeah. Because it's just a big empty stone building at this point.
Yeah. Huh. If I can't find any residue, nothing really interesting, I will start making my way over to the right side of the building.
I will say you do find some residue. This is the kind of thing I want you to come back to. Like, it's something that you're like, you find the residue where you think the fire started, and I want to say that you'll do a little bit of thinking on it before you realize what that is. Is that okay?
Yeah, totally.
Cool. So you head over to the last door you haven't been through yet?
Yes.
Okay, so you head through there. What you're in now is a narrow hallway, and because you've entered from that big room, the wall of the building, the outer wall of the building, is to your left, and to your right is a row of doors. Most of them are open, and what you see inside is a very narrow cot with a small chest at the bottom and what looks like a very tiny, like, writing table and a chair. And you realize that this is where the dedicates would have lived, and there are five of these doors. And the fire doesn't seem to have come in here at all. The door you open, the hinges are warped, but you can open it, and there are scorch marks on the side of the door in the big hall. But once you get into this little hallway, it's like the fire never happened.
Huh. Okay.
Now, all the doors are these big, thick, wooden, like ironwood doors. Like, you really have to get those really hot to burn through them. But so that might have stopped it if they'd left that door closed.
Okay, so it's almost like a blast door.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, this is intriguing. I guess I'll make a circuit back around on the side toward the back of the building where I entered.
Yeah, so
now confusing.
The door at the opposite end of this hallway leads you back into the kitchen. So you've just done a circle.
Okay. Huh. And I have not gone out the front door. I came in the back.
Correct.
I'm gonna go out the front door and see if there's anything, because because now I'm just full of confusion.
Sorry, I may have described something wrong. I apologize. What's interesting about doing
No, it's more of oh, sorry, go ahead.
what's interesting about doing something improv like this, like a mystery improv, is you kind of have to really think really quickly on your feet. If I had planned out a mystery, I would have a planned list of like hints to drop, and like I'd have something in my head where I'm like, these are the important things for them to know, and then I can drop hints around the important things for you to know. So this is kind of interesting because I'm trying to improv the mystery, so I'm figuring out what's important for you to know at the same time that you are, because I haven't quite decided what the mystery is yet. So that's a little harder to improv, but I'm finding it interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting because I am usually really bad at like the mystery solving the mystery part of things. So
That's why we have dice. You roll dice, I give
yes,
you answers. It's great.
yes, it's awesome.
Okay, so you head back to the kitchen, and that's where you realize the residue. When you head back into the kitchen, you're thinking through this, and it clicks. You're like, okay, so the residue that I found actually was oil. It was a kind of oil that you'll add to a fire in a kitchen to make the flame hotter, to do certain kinds of roasts and stuff. I've decided.
Mm, okay. Like if I was searing meat, I would
Yeah,
add that to make it
to get that
hotter.
char and stuff. Yeah,
So, but we know that it didn't start in the kitchen.
it did not. You're very sure
Mm.
now. Now that you've made an entire circuit, you're very sure that it started on the left side of that front hall if you're looking at the front door. Like if you're standing inside and the rest of the building is to your back and you're looking at the front door, it started to that left. Um, Near one of the windows, probably. And it swept through that room, right? There were probably wooden pieces around the altar. Like there was probably like a oh my god, I cannot describe anything. Big wooden piece of furniture that they would have put like candlesticks and like little statues and stuff on behind the altar. That was probably like
Um,
8 foot tall and like carved with all their temple nonsense, like all that kind of stuff. Uh,
yeah, I know the word is just not coming to me,
you know
but
what
I
I'm
know
talking about,
exactly.
though. Did I describe that well enough? Oh, well, Lauren just followed me. Thanks, oh Lauren.
Hey, Lauren.
Um, Yeah, so I'm imagining if this room were full of all the stuff, there'd be pews, there'd be like wooden bookshelves with the with books that are relevant to their temple stuff. Like there would have been that big thing behind the altar. There would have been just all kinds of stuff. That has all been burned out. It would have just fed the fire.
Yeah, it's like now it's gonna bug me, but
Sorry,
I feel like I should know this
I know.
because I want to say altar, but I'm like,
It's
oh,
that
how do I say
it's the nonsense behind the altar. Um,
yes?
Y'all know what I mean by that. Okay, so it would have started on the left side of the hall, swept through there. Pretty sure, you're pretty sure that somebody opened, or the door out uh, the front yard was open, and the door to the classroom was open. So the fire got through both of those doors,
Hmm.
but didn't touch the dedicants' sleeping areas. Now,
Interesting.
um, I think one question that's still outstanding is, was the fire set like on a pew, or was it like thrown through a window? Do you think you'd want to go back out and investigate that a little more?
Yeah, because the fact that it didn't touch the sleeping area, and it's not like fire is sentient and can decide where to go. The fact that the whole right side of this building is untouched
I
is
don't
making me wonder.
I don't think that would be too odd to you. I think the idea that it
Sure.
would have, well, let me let me add context. Um, I think doors being open and fire sweeping through them is a fairly familiar concept. These big ironwood doors would have been harder for the fire to sweep through because, as you saw, all of the doors that you've been able to open that had normal hinges, right, are scraped along the bottom of the stone. So there's a pretty tight seal there, and they're sort of like they're like corks in the door almost in the doorway, and so there wouldn't have been a lot of air for it to go that way. Fire likes oxygen, so it would have followed all the gone through all the areas where it would have fuel like wood and oxygen and that kind of thing. It does seem to have gotten hot enough that it burned itself out. So like if the ironwood door was originally like this thick, it's the door into the dedicant space is now probably like this thick and it's all scorched on that side. Does that make sense? So nobody put this fire out. It probably burned itself out in this giant, like, stone space.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
While you're in the kitchen, you realize that somebody in the kitchen tried to put the fire out with sand. You're seeing residue with, well, like little glass globs and stuff if sand gets hot enough. And so it was clear that somebody tried to like throw sand on wherever the fire got in here. And probably they kept it from going into the dedicant space. That door might have been open even. Because once it got into the kitchen, there wasn't a lot for it to burn in here. This, I would imagine they don't keep like the flammable stuff in the building, right? Like I imagine they kept like flour and stuff out in the storage spaces and bins and things.
Right. Okay.
And fighting a kitchen fire with sand is a fairly good idea, rather than water. So.
Yeah. Yeah, water on grease. Don't do it. And that's an IRL tip as well.
That is a super IRL. We are not making this up for Dungeons and Dragons. Don't put water on hot grease. It's a bad idea.
Yeah. Sorry, that urgent text was something I need to reply to. So I'm listening. I'm just multitasking.
You're totally fine. We are actually at about the halfway mark. Did you want to take a real quick break? You want to keep going?
Sure. If you are feeling good about leaving Victoire pondering the glass he has found.
Oh, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense, actually, for us to leave it at this particular moment where he is pondering that glass and like wondering where the fire started and all that. And that'll give me 5 or 6 minutes to imagine the next piece. So I'll be ahead of you a little bit. So you want to take a 5 or a 10-minute break? Which is better?
Yeah, let's say 10 minutes.
Okay. So, stream, we are going to be back at the top of the hour, and that's what I'm going to say instead of try to do all the weird, confusing time stuff. All right, so stream, hang out. We'll be back. I'll be hanging out in the chat a little bit while I'm stretching and getting water. So if you have any questions about anything, I'll be live in chat. So we will. I have to find the button. Okay, we will be back at the top of the hour. Thank you, stream. Hello, Stream. I managed to remember to unmute everybody, so I win. All right, we are back. Okay, so we were in the Stream. I think we're gonna go for another hour, about another hour, and then we'll see if we can either tie this up or at least put a pin in it by then. Okay, so you're standing in the kitchen. You are realizing that there is sand in like melted glass, sort of black glass type stuff, around where the scorch marks are, and you were thinking about how the fire would have started, and I think you were thinking about going back out to the main front room and trying to figure out how it started. You'd figured out that there was an accelerant, and it seemed to be the kind of oil you'd throw on a fire to make it hotter when cooking.
Yeah, because it just feels weird, and clearly this fire burned hotter than it normally would have, it seemed like. In under normal, a fire happened and it'll burn itself out. Especially finding the grease, the oil. Yeah.
Okay. So you're gonna head back out to that front hall. What I think you'd have to do is dig through the pile of burnt wood from this space. So go ahead and roll me an investigation check. Also, does that sound right, or do you think you'd do something else?
Oh, that sounds about right. Because I feel like, other than realizing the oil accelerant was used, I pretty much have hit what I'm going to find in here.
Yeah.
On the inside. Ooh, that is not good. It's only a 4.
So, as you're digging through this, you're actually having trouble, because the fire was so hot, figuring out which bits of wood belonged to the pews versus which bits of wood belonged to the frame for the windows. Like it was just really destroyed, and you only really caught the residue of the oil because it leaves like a pretty distinct sort of smudgy spot where it burns first. So you head back over to that spot. You're standing there. You are definitely in the right spot for, and I'm kind of leaning into that 18 you had when you found this spot. You're definitely in the right spot for something that could have been thrown through the window to land about here and start burning. It looks like the glass was sort of roughly swept over into the corner, but you also saw the glass outside. You probably have to go back out there and check to see if like there was more glass around like the 2 windows on either side of this window or whatnot. You based on the fact that the residue's on the floor, I think you would have figured out that whatever started the fire was started on the floor. So you don't think like somebody lit a pew on fire. Now the pews got lit on fire because of this, but I think you'd make that
like maybe a rag or paper or something was left on the floor and then it spread that way because of the accelerant.
Yeah. Now, so out of character, how much do you think Victoire would have dealt with like Molotov cocktails and stuff like that?
He would have dealt with them in his training and more in the field as he's traveled around.
Like how to contain it?
Right, how to contain it, how to make one, kind of what the best oil would be to start one. If that makes sense.
Can we say that Victoire would have learned to make them with spirits, like liquor?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is is Victoire the kind of person that likes to move around while they're thinking, or is it the kind of thing where he would be standing there staring at the spot like, what does this remind me of? What do you think?
A little of both. Like, he would stare at it, and if it didn't come to him, then he would start pacing.
Would he pace, or would he like try to get more information, like, and that would be the movement instead of pacing? Like, if the theory is maybe it got thrown through the window, I saw glass pieces outside but not in here, would he be like, okay, I need to go back outside and check to see if there's less glass outside in front of the window that I think it would have gotten thrown through, that would help confirm that idea.
Yeah, because pacing wouldn't be really useful in this moment.
Yeah, I feel like Victoire is the kind of person that tries to continue moving, but in a useful manner, right? Like, yeah, okay, so let's say he heads back outside. Would he go through that front door or the back door?
If he's where the pews are, he would just go out the front door instead of going all the way back out.
Okay. So you head out into the front. As I said, this is a courtyard that's stone, and there are wooden benches. The wooden benches all seem to be different styles, and you're familiar with the idea that the community will sort of donate these benches for people to sit on and stuff. There's even and the cobblestones are large, and in one, you notice in a couple of places that game boards have been either carved into the stone or painted on, like checkers and things like that. So this is a community space. And there are no doors in the courtyard opening. It's just sort of a stone arch. So you head out that. You take a left to go around that side of the building, because that's the side of the building it seems burned. Roll me another investigation check.
Let this dice.
Or hang on, before you roll that, if you have another skill, you've got a whole skill tree here. We could treat this kind of like a skill check challenge, because I've been having you roll investigation a million times. Are you proficient in anything that you could think of a way to use? And I mean anything on there. If you can think of a way to justify using that, I'll use that.
Let's see. Just looking really quick. No, that wouldn't be useful.
Because you've got acrobatics.
I was thinking if I...
Athletics, intimidation, perception. Well, what if
the only thing I can think of is if I... Go ahead.
What if we twisted the perception thing a little bit? What were you going to say? The only thing you can think of.
Is if maybe he goes outside, and if the windows are really tall, he has to climb up and maybe investigate.
Yes.
Like, use athletics to get up there.
Yeah.
And then kind of check to see if it came through the window, or if something was thrown out of the window, or if the window got blown out because once the fire got hot enough.
Yep. That is a perfect example of using one of your proficient skills in something like a skill check challenge. That's perfect. So you want to use athletics or acrobatics?
I'm gonna use athletics.
Okay, so go ahead and roll a d20.
A higher plus.
Add your +6 to that.
14.
Okay, so you have to do. So this is a flat wall, and then the only handholds are going to be that window ledge. So what you actually need to do is get a running start and basically run up that wall, which I think is what you do. Does that sound right?
Yeah, because if I had to climb, I would think I would just use my claws.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he's a monk, so that makes like perfect visual sense to do this.
So you get up there and you manage to just get up and get your hands on the window ledge, and you pull yourself up in there. It's a broad ledge. And I think the windows are close enough together that you can just sort of walk between the 3 windows that are on this side. And they're quite broad. Okay. So once you get up here and you're looking around, it becomes very obvious that maybe not very obvious, but once you're here, once you're close enough, these windows are high enough up that that you'd have to be where you were to see this. So once you're in this position, you realize that the 2 windows on either side were burned out, and you can see the way the flames sort of got up into those frames and warped them, and that's why the glass broke. But what you notice in the middle window frame is one of the frame actually looks like it got snapped instead of burnt and warped. Oh. So, I mean, the frame is burnt and warped, but there's a very clear space where it looks like it got snapped, which supports your theory that somebody threw something through this window. And I think that's the final piece you needed to realize This was basically like a Molotov cocktail. Somebody got a thin glass bottle, put a bunch of flammable liquid in it, which in this case was that cooking oil, which is what threw you for a second, and then probably a bunch of rags, chucked it in here, lit it on fire, chucked it in here, and that's what would have started a fire like that. But it still doesn't support it getting as hot as it did. So that's still a missing piece for you.
Unless, and this is just a wild hair of an idea, whoever did this had access to it, or had someone who did have access to it, and maybe they would have spilled this oil on the floor, and it would have been in the evening anyway. So it would have hit that oil on the floor in hours nobody would be around anyway, and that would just be like a powder cake.
Oh yeah, okay. So you've confirmed something got thrown through the window. It was probably the thing that lit the fire. But the residue that you found was maybe a little too spread out to tell whether that was in a bottle or whether somebody came in here and spread it around first. Is that what you're thinking?
1 second.
No problem.
Yes, that is my doorbell.
Go for it. I will entertain stream. So one of the things that's really interesting about doing these storytelling experiments like this is, and improving the story, improving the mystery, is you can actually rely on your players to help you fill in those blanks. So Tanya just gave me a completely a related but a very different theory that I could run with. I could run with either of these, or it can add to the mystery. That's something that is, I think, is important to encourage in your players, right? Them being able
Sorry, everyone.
You're okay, Tanya. Being able to have those suggestions. Don't worry, Tanya, you're good. I was just explaining why it can be good to improv with your characters a little bit, because you can get these ideas that you may never have thought of. That's the collaborative part of storytelling. That's the part I really enjoy. So don't be afraid to do this with your players, but when you do it, you have to be open-minded and you have to be willing to do yes and, okay? If you're curious about that, ping me. I'll talk more about it. Okay, you're back. You got snacks. Snacks are good. Okay, so your theory is you're still not quite sure whether somebody poured the accelerant on the floor or chucked it in through the window with a bottle, and frankly, you're probably not really going to be able to figure that out unless you start counting glass shards and stuff. Now, while you're up in this window... Go ahead.
Now, I was just wondering, when the Molotov cocktail landed, would there be enough left to even count the shards?
Well, that's the thing, is it would have been the center of the fire, but there's so much stained glass that's broken around here. You'd basically be sorting through to see if you can find a single unstained glass piece to support that theory.
Yeah. That would be a lot.
Now, while you're in the window, will you roll me a perception check, please?
Of course. And I need to see what my bonus is on perception.
Is it +3?
Good, it's a +3. Ooh, and that's a dirty 20.
Nice. Okay. While you're up in this window, your hearing is kind of amplified because this is basically a big echo chamber. And you very clearly hear somebody say, pull up in the back. And and somebody's about to come around the left side of the building, which is where the road, like the little path is to get back to the back. You can hear what sounds like either a cart or a carriage. So horses and wheels and men. Humans are coming. Or not humans. Humanoids are coming. What do you do?
Can I climb through the window but still kind of hang up there? Yeah, I basically want to climb through the window but observe, see if I can observe and perceive them.
Do you want to be unseen while you do this?
If possible.
I think to be unseen you'd actually have to hang off. You have a what?
I was looking at my stealth. It's not a skill tree thing, so
you're fine.
I mean, if I want to remain unseen, I could stay where I'm at.
I think because you're standing in a window, a very large window, I think you'd have to do something to hide, either hang off the edge on the inside of the building, or kind of stand in that piece of wall that separates the windows, like with one foot on either sill, and like make yourself real small, something like that.
Ooh.
Or do the thing where you stay on, as it's coming down the road, you stay like on this side of the window, like you're standing in the window and there's that piece of wall in between each window, right? And so you're standing in that space, and then as they get closer, as they're about to go past you, you have to like flip to the other side, to the other window, you know?
Ooh, let's do that. It's more dramatic.
And you could use acrobatics for that.
Do you want 1 or 2 acrobatics checks?
I think well, roll 1 and then I'll decide.
That is another dirty 20, so 15, and I have a 5.
Great. Then we'll just call that 1. So you quickly get into the window furthest away from the front courtyard, and you're able to make yourself small enough, or at least hang off into the building enough that they definitely can't see you, and you're about to time it. Right? And what you're waiting for is for the carriage to get just to the point where it would start being able to see you, and then to swing around at the right speed to get to the other window as the carriage was going by, so that you'd never be in sight. And you managed to do this beautifully. You time it perfectly, and you're able to see that it is a carriage, and that it does have a symbol on the side that would indicate a family. You're not familiar with. And it's a 2-horse carriage. It's got a driver, and seems to be in fairly good repair. And you can hear somebody inside talking to the driver, like, yeah, go around back, park back there. We'll go in through the kitchen. That's what you hear.
Oh, do I see them actually getting out yet, or am I just noticing the carriage?
So the carriage would need to swing all the way back behind. What they're probably going to do is pull into that dirt yard you saw behind the building, and you wouldn't be able to see that from these windows.
Okay, since there's still a little time for them to get around, I'm going to climb down, try to find a spot where I could be in shadow and overhear them in the kitchen, if possible.
Inside or outside?
Inside, because I have a feeling if I'm outside, the walls are too thick, I wouldn't hear anything.
Got it. Okay, so I think what you'd do is you'd actually want to drop down inside, and you'd want to head over to where the dedicant space is. And because that door can sort of be propped open a little bit, and the way that the door is facing, they would be moving around inside the kitchen and talking, and you'd be completely hidden, because the way the door opens is to, like, what they'd see through the open door is the outside wall, right? Like, they wouldn't see into the hallway, really, if that makes sense.
Okay, cool. That makes total sense. Yes, I'm trying to basically perceive what they are doing and eavesdrop, because without knowing how many there are, I'm not going to run out there and try to start a fight.
Oh, yeah.
There's at least 2 humanoids, and while I am good, I also don't want to, like, start a fight I can't finish.
I totally get
and
that.
not get back.
Totally get that. Okay, so you make it over there in time for them to come through the door. And fortunately, you had latched it when you came in. So you hear a bit of fiddling with the door, and that it opens. And as it opens, you hear somebody say, "Finally, how hard is it to open a door?" And you hear somebody say, "Sorry, my lord." And then you hear a third voice say, "I will check. Let me clear the space, my lord." And that's a deeper voice, which I clearly can't do today. I mentioned I talked for 13 plus hours on Friday. And you hear somebody come into the space, and the way they walk is very light-footed. Like, if you hadn't heard them say, "Let me clear the space first," and you weren't as perceptive as you are, you probably wouldn't even know you were there. It's creepy enough that the hairs on the back of your neck start to stand up. And then you hear the third voice say, "My lord, all is clear." And you hear the lord sort of like mutter stuff under his breath that's probably not complimentary about how long things take. And you hear the lord say, "Wait out here," to probably the servant or the driver, whoever opened the door for him in the first place. He walks in, And you can hear him because he's got those little like metal heels on his shoe. It's probably
Okay.
silver or
Almost like
something.
tap shoes.
Kinda, yeah. It's just the heel, but you can very clearly hear him like clip, 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 clip into the space, and you hear him go, "Ugh, this looks horrible. Did you really have to do such a dirty job?" And you hear the deep voiced man say, "Sorry, my lord, but you told me to scare them away, so this is how I did it." And it sounds like they're going to head in through the classroom because the Lord continues to complain about, "Look at all of this mess. It's going to take us forever to clean this space out." And the voices are getting quieter as they head in through the classroom.
Is it possible to go out and try to like rifle through the carriage while they're doing this?
They left the kitchen door open, and if you peek through really quickly, you do see the driver you'd seen before driving the carriage standing next to the door looking bored.
Okay, but he's not with the carriage, he's just standing in the kitchen door.
Yes.
Ooh. I'm wondering if there's a way to take him down silently. I mean, I've heard enough to know it was an inside job, that it was planned. But now I either want to at least get away, or if I can, investigate this carriage to see if I can find anything to like the identity, because Victoire is just thinking this must be Lord Lockney, and these must be his men.
Lord Lockwin, yeah.
Lockwin. I don't know why I got Lockney.
It doesn't matter. It's fine. We made all of these names up. It doesn't matter. Okay, so the objective is to get away. A secondary objective is to check out the carriage. So let me think for a second. I think there would have been lower windows in the kitchen on either. So if you're in the kitchen and you're looking at the back door, in the walls to the left and right would have been, I think, smaller sort of like kitchen windows that you'd open if it got too hot or whatever. And I think both of those are probably burned out, just like the windows are in the rest of the space, because the kitchen got hot as well. So I think you could probably, you'd have to stealth, but you could probably get into the kitchen through the door you're up against. And the back door, oh, this is so hard. You're on the left side of the building facing the back. The door you're going through, you'd go through, and the back door to the kitchen is more centered, right? And the dirt yard would be, if you go through the back door of the kitchen, would be off to the right a little bit. Okay, so you imagine that's where they parked the cart. The driver is standing in the open door, and he's facing towards the right side of the building where the carriage is. So it's possible, if you're very sneaky, that you can get through this door on the left side of the building and hop out the window in the kitchen on the left. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, and I probably have to give up looking in the carriage, especially if he's facing the carriage.
Well, this would be step one, right? Once you get outside, there's all kinds of buildings and stuff I can describe out there, but I find that if I throw too many visual elements at people, they get lost. So this would be how you get outside.
Yeah. Okay, so let's try to stealth.
Indeed.
Nice to me. You gave me 2 dirty 20s in a row.
Do it again.
Not a dirty 20. My stealth is this is a 13.
Okay. I think that's good enough. You're dealing with somebody that isn't super, like, his job is to make sure the carriage doesn't really get stolen. That's about it, right? And he's bored, and he's kind of like, screw that guy. So I think you make it through this door. I think you sort of eel through the opening that was there, and you just sort of hop right out the window, and you don't make a single sound. You land in the grass outside. Okay. It's not that much of a drop. Now that you're outside, you can make your way around the back of the building, and you can see where the carriage is. Now, there are, we'll say, 4 structures that are loosely grouped around this dirt yard. So the one that's closest to the building looks like a storage shed. Next to that, sort of out in the middle, is a chicken coop. And then the third structure is what looks like where the goats would have been penned up and has like a single stall for a horse. All of these are empty. And the space between them is about 4 feet. So they're grouped fairly closely together. Yeah. They're grouped fairly closely.
Not a lot of room for Dragonborn.
No. I'm trying to think of like a slightly extra wide doorway. I think 4 feet's right. Or maybe that's 5 feet. I'll say 5 feet.
Because I mean, I'm 5'2", so that'd be a fairly wide door.
Yeah, because I've got a double door into this room. That's what I was looking at for reference. But what's clear here is the buildings are grouped fairly closely. To get between the temple and the storage shed, I'm not going to have you roll a stealth because he's facing in the other direction. You're a monk. You'd have to, like, fall over. And I don't want you to roll in that one, so I'm not going to make you roll. And then the space between the storage shed and the chicken coop, if he had really good peripheral vision, he could probably catch sight of you. So I think I'll have you roll for that. This is if you want to get around to the carriage. So I'll outline this. And then to get from the chicken coop to the goat one, that one you're gonna have to like cause a distraction or something because he can clearly see that. But then once you're behind the horse and goat shed, you could come around what ends up being what you're looking at right now, the right side, and you can get into that carriage as long as you don't like get into it. But you'd have complete access to it from behind without him being able to see you at all because you'd be behind the carriage. If you want.
What if I Assassin's Creed it and whistle to get his attention?
I have not played Assassin's Creed in literally a decade, so I'm gonna need more information. I support this, but I need more.
So in the last like 3 games, there was a mechanic where if someone hadn't detected you, you could whistle, and they would come over, and then you could like
stab them,
knock them out, or assassinate them.
Got it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll support that. Yeah.
Did I whistle as a Dragonborn?
In my world, you can. You can at least make
Okay, so I was just like,
You can make the equivalent because people whistle. People whistle in all sorts of ways. They either use their lips, or they can whistle with their tongue against their teeth, or they like use like a piece of grass in between their hands. It's all kinds of ways to make a whistle.
Okay, it was just like my brain just went to the, is this possible? Because I overthink things. So yes, I'm basically crouched in the grass, and I want to make a noise for him to want to come investigate and see what's making the noise.
Okay. So let's say you whistle, and you can very clearly see this guy. Sorry, my iPad is dying. I need.
Oh, iPad.
Must has iPad power. There. I forgot to plug it in last night, and that's what I'm taking all my notes on. Good notes for the win.
Yay.
Mermaid Jeans was like important questions, but I like that the answer is just yes. Okay, so you whistle. There's a couple of steps up into the kitchen, and you can very clearly see the driver because you're peeking around this corner. You whistle and you see him go like stand up straighter, and like he like pokes his head into the temple. You think he's trying to see if like his master was whistling for him. So you think you'd whistle again to pull his attention back out here?
Yeah.
Okay. So you whistle again, and his head whips around, and he you can see he very clearly identified like the whistle came from out here. He looks around, and he kind of mutters something to himself, and then he shrugs and starts walking down the stairs and is about to come around towards your corner.
All right, I'm going to I don't want to kill this guy because
Okay.
He may have a wife. He may have a family at home waiting on him. I don't know. But I do want to like basically just kind of choke him out.
All right. Why don't you roll me an unarmed attack?
I'm a monk, so I get more than one shot.
Uh-huh.
I get 2 attacks per round. So
roll all of those attacks. Roll me 2 attacks, and we'll see what kind of story we can put together with those rolls.
Okay, so I get a +6 on each one.
Love it.
And I'm not trying to kill him. I'm just trying to knock him out.
Understood.
Oh God, one is a 22 and the other is a 21.
Yes. Okay. So this is going to look exactly how you want it to look. I can absolutely throw out suggestions, or I can just let you describe this. What do you think this looks like?
Since I got 2 successful attacks, as he comes around and he's almost where I'm at, I just kind of grab him by the front, and then pull the arm around.
Yeah, you're just like
like I'm doing
pull him to you.
Basically, just like just pull him right to me, arm around, and I've got an advantage because I'm a big dragonborn.
Yeah, this dude is not large.
Yeah. So once he stops struggling, I stop. I just make sure he's unconscious because I'm not trying to kill him.
Yep.
And then tying him up probably won't be necessary because I just want to take a quick look through the carriage. I'm not trying to like be super familiar or super thorough.
So no like pommel tap behind the ear or anything. You just want him to lay here for a minute or two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like lay there for maybe 5 to 10 minutes because I figure if he's knocked out, I make sure he's still breathing, but I don't like.
He's still breathing. You didn't crush anything. Like this bit still feels like a tube. A slightly squishy tube. He's breathing fine. You just knocked him out.
Yeah, so I just want to like kind of go like open the door from behind, so like if whoever that guy is comes back, he's not gonna see his carriage wide open. So basically I just want to like rifle, see if there's anything, and grab like any papers, maybe any money, and that can go to the orphanage. Just rifling for any sign of identity and or loot I can take to help the kids.
Right. So you get into this carriage, and it is probably the fanciest dumb carriage you've ever seen. So normally there are 2 seats on either side of a carriage. There's the usual seat in the back, and it is the plushest. It's like a you think they were going for like a light spring green, but it turned kind of a nasty. Came out kind of a nasty color, and then it looks like somebody tried to like fix it by like adding gold edges, and it did not work well. But you would imagine some idiot like that lord probably is like, this is the newest fashion. Basically it looks gross. On the other side is actually like little cabinets and stuff, and as you're poking through there you find one with like really nice snacks, but they're not snacks that will keep. So clearly somebody like comes out here and puts these snacks in here when he goes on a carriage ride. Like there's a bottle of wine and like all there's like what you'd find for a really nice picnic all right up in this.
Okay.
There is also let me think. Yeah, so that's what you see very obviously. Go ahead and roll me another investigation check.
That is an 18.
Okay, so what you realize, you actually start poking around the edges of the seats and stuff, and you actually find a pocket on the right side that's fairly deep, and it's actually carved into the cushion. So if you look at it from the outside, it just looks like just a round cushion. But if you touch it, it doesn't feel like a cushion. And what's in there is actually a money purse and a packet of papers.
I will take those and the wine for good measure, and then I'll start getting away.
Got it. Okay. Takes wine, money purse.
I should write this down. As we continue this, I will have forgotten that I have this loot.
That is why I'm writing it down as well. Okay, so I think you make a clean getaway. I think there's enough trees and brush and stuff for you to make just a clean. Maybe you loop back around or whatever. Is that a wine emote? That's awesome.
Yes.
I like that.
That is from our
That's
friend
good.
Pleasantly Twisted.
I need a
Yes.
I need a whiskey emote really badly.
Really nice. We
Clearly.
gotta get you there. Get you a wine,
I
get you a
need
whiskey
more
emote.
I need more subs before I can add. I've got like 15 emotes in my Discord. I need more subs before I can add any more emotes. Anyway, um, you make a clean getaway. Would this be the kind of thing where you stop once you make a clean getaway to take a look at the papers and count the money, or would you wait until you got back to the house?
No, I'd wait till I got back to the house because I figure, in all the time that I've been gone, however long it took me to get there,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna take me a while to get back. Especially if I try to like not be on a main road where this carriage may want. So I'm not sure if the
Oh,
carriage
you
would
stay
take
off
a
there.
similar route.
Right.
So I would be a little slower getting back and trying to take a route that doesn't like make me seen very publicly because I'm sure there's not a lot of Dragonborn around and I'm the new guy,
Mm-hmm.
so they'll be like, oh yeah, I saw that new like weird Dragonborn guy around. So that I don't
Well,
want to raise suspicion.
you're also kind of covered in soot because you've been walking around a place that's been on fire, so you're going to need to clean up, right? Um, so we'll say it took you maybe 45 minutes to get out there because you walk faster than children. So maybe half hour, 45 minutes. Getting back, I think it's going to take you like an hour and a half or 2 hours because I think you take like you kind of loop around to the other side of the village. Um, and
Yeah.
maybe you stop by a stream and kind of clean up a little bit. And you sort of stroll, and maybe like you stop at a couple of stalls on the way back for like dinner or whatever. So let's say you headed out. Let's say you did a lesson with Elvira and stuff before lunch. You headed out before lunch, where the group has lunch, and then they do sort of reading lessons in the afternoon. You're probably going to make it back right around dinner.
Okay.
Does that sound right?
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds right. Like I kind of do the door opens right as dinner is being served, and the two sisters are like, "Oh, good, you're back."
Right. Yeah. You see, Angela very clearly has a look of relief. Um, and you're just in time. Go ahead and wash up. So, do you head? Do you like take off all your armor and head straight out to the dinner, or do you think you'd investigate what you picked up first?
Um, I would put everything in my room
Mm-hmm.
and then join them for dinner, and then tell the sisters that I want to talk to them after dinner.
Okay. You're very casual about it. Um, Alvaro is sulking. Uh,
Mm.
like he's got the pout. Um, I think during the week that you've been there is when they celebrated the harvest, like that festival that we're and
Mhm.
so the all of the girls and boys have their own toy at this point. And you can see some of the
Mhm.
girls have like snuck their dolls to the table. One little boy's got this cute little doll that he's been you can't take it out of his hand. He's got his thumb in his mouth, and then his other hand has the doll. And you see that some of them have brought them to the table, and you can see where they were playing with them before dinner. And you have brought a lot of cheer to this house. There's a lighter atmosphere, and they're just small things, but it can mean so much. But Alvaro is totally pouting. Now, before we go any further, we've got about 15 minutes left. This is actually a fairly nice stopping point, and we can do our cleanup, and I can let you go. Does that sound all right?
It does, but with the caveat that I would love to come back and do this again. Like, I'm having so much fun with this character and the world we're building. I want to do this again.
I would love that. All
If
right.
it's not me being greedy.
It's not you being greedy. I love playing with you, and I really don't mind. I'm happy to put some more time on the calendar, so we can talk about that after. Let me make notes so we can pick her back up. So you make it back by dinner. Alvaro pout because he got left behind.
Aw.
Um, you put your stuff in your room without looking at it. Told sisters you wanted to talk to them. And I think that's good. All right. So,
Yay.
stream, it is often good to leave your players in a place where they want to know more. Sometimes that can be a little hard to engineer. So look for it in your sessions when you're like, all right, we're about to hit this moment, and you don't always have to go right up to the hour that you've all agreed to play. Sometimes it can be nice to end a little bit, a couple minutes early. And I also encourage you all to try and check in with your players. So I'm going to do that with Tanya. What was your favorite moment today? What was a moment somewhere in the story where you were like, that was a turning point, that stood out to me? Is there anything like that you can think of?
The realizing that the fire was not natural and it wasn't just him being paranoid. And also just kind of getting to do the cool Assassin's Creed thing.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, I liked that. Thanks for describing that to me. Yeah.
You're
Um,
welcome.
okay, yeah, those were good moments. I really liked the way that you investigated everything. I thought that was very thorough, and I liked how you played along with the collaboration where I'd throw out an idea and we'd kind of go back and forth, and then we'd play through it in the character. That was a lot of fun for me. And it was very interesting doing a mystery without having thought about it at all. I tried very hard not to suppose anything for this, and so it's just kind of like making it up. Um, Mermaid Jean says it was really interesting. He got a solo mission as opposed to last session. Yeah, last session was very roleplay heavy with all the kids and stuff. So this was a different aspect to Victoire, which was neat. Yeah. Any other good moments you like, chat, while I'm chatting about other stuff? Please share those. I really enjoy those, and I'll read them out. um, yeah, I think we've got to a good stopping point here, and yeah, I will definitely arrange some more time with you. Um, is there anything you'd like to share with Stream about what you might be doing over the next week or so?
Actually, in about an hour, over on our friend Kelly, the Opera Geeks channel, we'll be talking about parasocial relationships and streaming.
Awesome.
And yeah, I'm excited. I'm interested. We got some really good questions. Dr. B curated some questions for us that were taken on Twitter,
Great.
and we will be on our front page. So if it's a little more secure than normal, that may be why. So if you're not following the Opera Geek, you should go do that now in case we have to start on follower only mode,
Yeah.
because people are being people, and
Yeah.
you know how we are.
Safety tools are
But yeah, it's
important.
gonna be
Yeah.
yes. But it's
Can,
gonna be on the Opera Geeks channel. Oh, go ahead.
can I ask a quick question? What is a very
Sure.
short definition of parasocial? Like,
Parasocial is the one-sided nature
mm-hmm.
in which a lot of people that are viewing content creators, either actors, singers, whoever, and they feel because they know the person, maybe they follow them on social media,
Mm-hmm.
in the case of a streamer or YouTuber,
Mm-hmm.
because they consume the content in real time,
Right.
there is a one-sided um, idea that the relationship is far closer than it really is.
Okay. And so the panel that you're going to do, the talk you're going to do later with your panelists, you're going to be talking through that concept. Will they be throwing out examples and things like that, and sort of getting into like the good and the bad of this?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to define that so
Mm-hmm.
that, if someone is watching, they don't know what it means. Because,
Yeah.
I feel like this concept has always been around, but we didn't have the word
The
for it.
word, yeah.
Um, we're going to talk about our own kind of experiences with it, how
Mm-hmm.
we handle it. Then we're going to kind of transition to giving people tips on, if you're on the viewer side of things,
Mm-hmm.
how to kind of realize if you are getting to that boundary and overstepping it,
Ooh, that'll be helpful.
and
Yeah.
reading the room.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Because a lot of those things where, you know, let's say like in your stream,
Mm-hmm.
if someone's used to your stream and it's very cozy, it's very, it's very affirming, and these are folks that want everyone to feel safe and good and comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
and then they go to a stream that maybe is not that same way, or they're people who have been there for a long time, they've got their in jokes,
Mm-hmm.
and they do in jokes, and so you're like, I don't get it,
Mm-hmm.
or it's a super busy stream and the streamer is not really interacting. And I know for me, I prefer a streamer who interacts with chat.
Yeah.
And if you need that, don't go into, basically don't take your behavior from like this stream and
Oh,
take it elsewhere unless
yeah.
they both have that same kind of community vibe.
Right.
um
That makes
or
sense.
and also just things where, like, realizing that even if you sub to someone, even if you are a patron, you send them a gift, you buy them a coffee,
Mm-hmm.
that it's still transactional, and it's not a bad thing. It's setting that boundary
Yeah.
because too many people have stories of like being nearly doxxed or being harassed, being stalked.
Yeah.
So understanding the transaction of what we do, which people frame as a bad thing, like, oh, you're taking advantage of people. Like, no,
No, it's
I can go watch a movie and I know they're not my friends.
it's about setting expectations, and I think for a lot of people, at least in the communities that I run in, those expectations are very helpful. So I'm very much looking forward to that stream. If stream, if you want to know more, definitely come to that. I think it's going to be a very interesting talk. They're going to go into it in a lot more detail than we have right here, so that's good. Is there anything else you want to share that you might be doing over the next week?
Um, over the next week, just streaming. I want to get back into Yakuza Like a Dragon,
Yeah.
and maybe get into some more Phoenix Immortals Rising. But
Mm.
it's far more of a puzzle game than I realized, and I watched
Hmm.
friends go through it, and I was like, oh no, this is bad.
Yep, that's fair. Okay, cool. That sounds fun. For me, we've got Treasure Tuesday on Tuesday. That is of course dependent on pain levels and group availability. And then I will be streaming Spirit Fair every chance I get. It's this sort of Stardew Valley like game where I replace Charon for the who's the runs the boat on River Styx. So I'm collecting spirits and escorting them to their final. It is both sad and adorable at the same time. So I've been playing that a lot. And then we should be Broken Band on Saturday, which is the next time we should be streaming that again, as long as everybody's ready and comfortable. And then I think I have another brunches next Saturday. Let's see.
Fun. Who with?
Who are
And I
we
remembered
having?
something
Not
I'm
Saturday,
doing
Sunday.
Thursday.
Tell us about that.
And because I totally forgot, because that's how my brain is working today. Um, if you like Cyberpunk Red,
Mm-hmm.
from Telltale Games, starting a short 8-week campaign over on Sirenscape's channel. And our friend Kelly is in the show as well as Gabe Hicks, because his whole internet name is too long for me right now. Posting art, and our GM is Phil. His Twitter and Twitch name is Scruff with 2Ks.
Oh,
And then Simon, Wandering DM, is going to be producing it. So it's
nice.
a short run. We start Thursdays, and it's 3-hour show
Mm-hmm.
starting at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Sirenscape's channel.
And is that starting this Thursday?
Yes, and I put a
Nice.
link in our text chat because I'm not sure if I can put a link in your channel.
I think you can. You might. Oh, you put it in the text chat. Let me grab this and I'll throw it over there. Yeah, because that
Because I'm
sounds
smart.
really fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I will also throw the link to the Parasocial talk.
Yeah.
'Cause
Give
I'm
me that
always
one
like,
too.
let me not assume I can put links in chat just because I know the person.
That's fair. Alright,
Yeah,
so as
well,
many activities are both very hopey, but I hope they all go well. Yeah, I hope so too. That should be good. Okay. So the brunches I'm having next week is actually Oba Lauren. That is,
Hey.
again, depending on people's schedules and energy levels and stuff, but I'm looking forward to that one. I think that'll be quite fun. Okay. Well,
That'll be exciting.
yeah. I've never played any games with Oba Lauren, so I greatly admire her. So I'm looking forward to what that will turn into. Okay. If that's all from you, Tanya, then I think we can go ahead and say bye, stream. You good?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
Well,
good. I'm gonna take this half hour and kind of try not to let panic mode engage.
oh, don't let panic mode engage. Go snack and stuff. Then take deep breaths and.
I
Okay, good. So stream. You can always find me on Twitter at like7spoon. You can find Tanya on Twitter at Cipher of Tear. I am happy to chat with you about most things. Be polite. And please come to that Parasocial talk. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'll see y'all there. And if you need anything, let me know. And we'll talk to you later. Bye, stream. Oh, hang on. Mermaid Jean says, P.S. Fave moment was the Dragonborn navigating through windows in stealth. Yeah, That was a very good moment. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, for real. Bye, Stu Stream.